She says, we are wasting time to find out about Simu publishers or etc. She's only saying that because she don't want to get caught. She said, I give thanks to whoever published part 3, wife of Afro Unu and Afro Unu himself, and of course Mr. John Starks from Ghana. She's giving credit to Mansour, this non-African scammer. I don't even know if he's in Ghana now. I think he's in Hawaii.
Alright, so the first lie he tells, he says before 2010 there was no Noopooh movement. Alright, let's be clear. The 9 ball, which was also penned by Afro Uno, Amanubu Rakata, or Asa Noopooh, states very clearly to keep Caucasian people out of your plans as much as possible, number 1. Number 2, it also says to exist like a sun, right? So a sun is self-growing, self-sustaining. And the reason why that beautiful advice was given, because of you're in a country, as well as other countries, where these so-called movements are actually opposites to the controlling force in these particular countries. And since all of these countries are based off of slavery in some form or fashion, and you trying to get liberated, that means you set yourself automatically up as a target in the negative when you're dealing with the nature and its opposites. Okay? Got that out the way. Number 2, the nature of nature in book 2 specifically says that a true culture society, not a movement, which is basically political and a bunch of people rallying together trying to change certain things, whether it's directly or indirectly, that is not the case. The nature says a true culture society will be established after the cataclysm. So that means whatever Ethiopians who are following sound right reason option they only have to do is, number 1, get back to Africa and do what you have to do until that time comes. That's it. So talking about a movement, again, this individual has no intelligence, reason is descendant, and he's also delusional, been delusional a long time. So now, but what I will do is show and prove for a fact that there were things happening prior to 2010. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is show you when I brought the information out based on what I was doing. Okay, first of all, my ex gave me the information in 2008 when I got to New York. So I had the information 2008. I had started taking the books and copying them with a scanner and putting them out on the net. Now I had been, since I had a couple of MySpaces in 2007, I utilized MySpace first. Those were the first places that those scanned copies of the nature and other books that Doc wrote and the Bible interpretation, all that stuff, that's what I was doing. I was putting that stuff out via MySpace. I didn't run into Sour Man until late 2009, going into 2010, when they started, those Ning sites started popping up. They spell N-I-N-G, Ning sites, and they were free. And from that, people were just able to go in and set up their own little websites, and that's what we was doing. So a lot of us, the Wapians, and was just going on these different sites and just set up and just start breaking in the information. Now again, the nature books had been out, but we're talking about as far as the net, their first appearances, as far as being scanned piece by piece. I have to take credit for that. It's because I used the actual books in the scanner that I bought. That's what I was using. But that took place prior to 2010. Now, what I'm going to do is show you that prior to 2010, Lord Abba came up to the Bronx. And I told this story in the Charles Dalia, I think, video. And he was going to see Sarnetta. So what I did was I tagged along with him. This is 2009. And from me doing that, I was on 3 DVDs. One was with ABBA, which is called From Allah to Man. Another one was called The Moon God and Pantheism. And I did another one called The Moon God, Religion and stuff like that. Like a part 2 to that. So these here are the DVDs that I did with Sarnetta in 2009 right here. Now as you look at this video, you can see me at Sarnetta's house on the couch. You can see his kids. They're pretty young at this time, and this is when he started incorporating them into his videos at the beginning and things like that. So you can see how he was doing this thing, then he was still learning how to work all of the gadgets that came with it and stuff like that. He came a long way. But as you see, I'm sitting here with Sarnetta at his house, and this is 2009. So again, this shows and proves that Sour Man is a liar, because he said it was no movement, rather as a group, or either nobody doing nothing prior to 2010. This is a lie, but this is his weak attempt to write himself into a place that he wasn't. And the next year, someone sampled my voice with 2 other guys in 2010. A lot of my little snippets that were being put out by Sonnet at the time, people were taking them and adding them with other people that were speaking on various subjects, which was cool. That was a good thing. But I just want to give you the receipts that I was around. And again, I don't really care about what took place back then, but it's because of these fools and these clowns are still trying to write themselves into a situation, and then they bringing me into it, and they keep forgetting that I keep up with a lot of my stuff. So I'm only putting this out only just to set the record round, because they're trying to fool people, lie about me, and still insert themselves in places that they don't go. So again, remember that, just for the record, I didn't put none of this stuff out. This is what they were doing. They were doing this stuff in order to try to make it look like I was on something else. This is what you doing to see in my path and my travels and what I went through. So I never said I was above being confused like Mr. Charles, which is a supreme liar who thinks that he never has been sideswiped, but he have, because he done went on social media since 2007 and made a clear fool of himself, especially since 2014 that he done got caught out there. But this ain't about him. This is just about me just bringing forth some facts so y'all can equal stand that I was around. But I just wanted to make sure y'all get the facts. So when they keep bringing up my name and saying that they were there, I wasn't around, or I was doing this and that, this is the video for you to make sure that you don't get confused by them. And that's the only reason why I'm bringing all of this stuff up, because I was implicated in some foolishness today. So I'm just going to respond just to make sure my side of the story is told. Okay, now here following is a website that was out at the same time, and here you can see that the DVDs that I just showed you were being sold as well. So even though I wasn't sure, or I thought that Afro Uno and Dr. York was the same, I still was spitting Noon Science. So the information was being put out there and pushed and moved. So that's not accurate of what he's claiming, that nobody was putting out information before him. That's a complete lie. A lie all the way to the letter. Okay, so now what we're going to do now is read the paragraph and see if what he said was true or false. Let's read it. It says, before 2010, there was no Noopooh movement. Nobody was talking about Noon Science. Nobody was calling themselves a Noopooh. I'm not saying that the information wasn't around. I'm saying that nobody was calling themselves a Noopooh, and there was no talk about Noon Science, Noopooh, etc. before 2010. Anybody that is claimed to be a Noopooh started doing so after 2010. So, what happened in 2009 that set the Noon Science spark on the internet? I released the Noon Science information via noonscience.com in 2009 and 2010. See, way back machine while I was in Africa with the assist of a guy named Brahim Nas. Actual name, he was in the U.S. All right, we're going to start right here. So, what he's trying to do, again, he's seeking to confuse you. But as we have just seen and heard and read, I was there because I had the books since I was given the books in 2008. So we talking about 2 years prior. When I ran into him, like I said, he was a Nuwaubian. I think he had like 2 adult books and he was spaced out talking about aliens. So he was introduced into Noon by myself. Him and Brahim Nas both were introduced into the information by myself. At the time, I think her name is Galaxy Wisdom, I think, or Galaxy 9, something like that. One of my Facebook friends, she was overseas and she was actually still producing the books, and you can order them. And I forgot what her email, I think it was like Amun99 or 999@yahoo.com. And I was telling people that the email that I was given, I was passing it around to people who still wanted to get the books. So Brahim ordered the books and then put them on PDF, and that's how he got the PDF form of the Nature of Nature. Again, that's 2010. 2 years prior, I was putting them out as far as scanning page by page and on different sites, battling other Nuwaubians who were saying that York didn't write those books. And it was other people who had the Bible interpretation and the 9-ball had that already spinning in the streets as well. I know Anova had a little website he was talking about in one of his books. But as far as Mansour, it's nowhere in the world he was the first to do anything. And he's just telling a lie about this way back machine where you can go and look on the internet and go so far back. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing. I already showed y'all the facts. Anybody who knows me, whether they like me or not, can vouch for the dates that a lot of them heard about the Noon information because of what I was doing on the Ning sites and on the MySpace page. I had like 7 to 10 MySpace pages, and they could tell you that. So again, we're just showing you and establishing that this guy is definitely a liar. So let's continue with what else he says in this. Actual name, he was in the U.S. Brahim learned about the Noon Science information from me. Me initiating the release of the Noon Science information in 2009 was the catalyst that set the spark. It was only after the information was made available in PDF format that people began to download the information and then suddenly self-proclaim themselves to be a Noopooh or a student of Noon Science. Well, if these people are students, then what is the name of their school and who are their teachers? Alright, number 1, you won't find the word student or teacher in the nature books in relation to anybody happen to follow somebody else as a student or a teacher. The book tells you to promote the information. As soon as you feel that you learned enough and you accepted the information, it says learn, accept, and practice, and then promote it. So that's it. Anything else about this student teacher stuff in the school, this is again the mindset of a Nuwaubian or somebody that's in some type of religion. There's nothing in the book that talks about a person setting up a school. Again, this goes against what the 9-ball said, which I read earlier, to not set up an organization and for Ethiopians to get back to Africa. Okay, so since he's not an African, so when we make that transition, all non-Africans are going to be kicked out of Africa anyway. So what he's doing is just playing around with people who don't know no better. That's why he always hiding his face and always in Hawaii, because that he's a mankind race. So anywho, the whole point is he's just making up these things that nobody is saying. Again, there's nothing to be set up like what he's saying according to the nature of nature, all of the teaching and all those different things will be set up as far as the way it's supposed to be in a Noon society, which is really called a true culture society, or the African Noon Kingdom, which he won't be a part of as far as in our homeland. That will be set up that way. So again, ask him to show you that you're supposed to set up schools in America. He won't be able to do it, but let's keep continuing. Through Brahim Nas, I met James West via phone only. At that time, James West was not calling himself a Noonaboo. He did not know about the Noon science information. He was given the PDFs by Brahim Nas under my direction. After this, Brahim Nas, James West, and I engaged in several phone conversations. Again, a lie. I was given the original books by my ex. I had the books. I done showed y'all the books plenty of time in all my videos. I got all of them in their original formats. Why you gonna give me anything? He ain't give me nothing. Like I said, the information, I introduced it by going on different Nawapian sites and engaging in battle and making friends and stuff and spreading the information through the pages. It just, again, people were buying the books. After a while, Galaxy Wisdom stopped producing the books because she said people were getting on her about she didn't have the right to produce the books. So she stopped producing them. And she only stopped producing the books because Afro-Unu's business partner, Roy, and them stopped getting books to make. So she took it upon herself to keep the books going for a couple of years. But eventually she stopped, so it was no more books out there in the original form. So again, Brahim Nas got the email from myself, which was armoon999@yahoo.com. That's who they hit up to get the books before she stops printing them. And that's how they got the book. Again, I repeat, Brahim and Sour Man were both Nawapians. They didn't know about Noon Science until I came on his website and dropping the knowledge. That's what got their attention. That's simple and plain. The same way y'all see me bouncing all over the place right now, putting the information all over the place. I was doing the same thing back then, but I was not as thorough as I am now. But the same energy and the mindset as far as to push the information is still present. So again, this guy here is a liar. He's sitting there telling the people who don't know no better that I wasn't there, that he gave me the Noon knowledge, which is a lie. Everybody who knows me knows that 2008 is when I got the books and made it known that these books I thought was York's. In actuality, they wasn't. But as far as history goes, I was there. This guy's a lie. Tell him to show his face. Tell him to show you his hair. Tell him to take his hat off and let him see that non-kinky hair. Then you can just toss this clown back to the back. That's all you got to do. Show me your hair. You'll never see it. And I engaged in several phone conversations while I was in Africa. Mr. West started reading information, began to parallage, making highly inaccurate assumptions about the Noon science information. He made false assertions about who wrote the information, its origin, etc. And he did not like when I corrected him about him anything. He eventually took an adversarial position due to him not wanting to deal with the facts, reality. He then set about doing what you all have been seeing him do for the past few years. He is doing now what he was doing then, with no true growth or real progress over 7+ years. Some of you may be aware that James West does not like me. Have you considered why he has a problem with me, being that there is zero evidence of me ever doing anything wrong to him? Think about that and then ask him. Once again, for those who don't know, you could just come to the group and see all of that, or I'm gonna just put the video out again about him being exposed, about falsely copyrighting the books, putting out fake information that he was Afro-Unu. In other places that Afro-Unu was a spirit, and we keep telling them in the book, if you tell you that Afro-Unu was the physical writer. He has also, just like York, took on Afro-Unu's persona and pretended, and anybody would be upset when you try to hijack something that belongs to the race. Again, Mansour would be treated with the same hate or even worse aggression if he stole something from America, let's say the Declaration of Independence, or he went and took something that, you know, somebody in another country deemed very important and remixed it and disrespected it and start selling it in the way that he's selling it. That is called protecting your culture in whatever format that is. So he did not just do something to me, he did something to our whole race by actually taking that information, taking the books, assuming the identity of Afro Uno the same way as his filthy teacher, Dwight York, have done the same thing. And look at all the confusion. So yeah, I can admit that, of course, all of us thought that Dr. York wrote The Nature of Nature. There was nobody else talking about nine either. However, Noopooh used myself and others to correct that mistake. So there's nothing wrong with that. That happens in life. That's no different than us running around for years saying that Christopher Columbus discovered America. How many of us told that lie for decades and decades? Now you realize he didn't, so now what? That's part of life. A lot of us said things every day that's not accurate. But that's not to justify anything. I'm just trying to make it plain and make it known that those things are not up for rebuttal. I'm not rebutting something. I already corrected that. He's just repeating the same thing to individuals who don't know. So for the record, he and I don't get along because of him disrespecting the information and taking it after he used Brahim to get the PDF, and then he started selling the information. That's why him and Brahim fell out, because Brahim started seeing that, and he actually pulled my coat to it as well. Like, yo, he's taking other people's books. He's not just doing this with the nature. He was taking all kinds of other black authors' books and redoing the cover and then putting it back out and making money off of it. So that's the real deal. So he didn't have, and then, you know, again, talking about personal things, what he did to me, he didn't do anything to me personally as far as physically, because we was not in the same place. He was in between Hawaii and Africa, but he did a lot of things, like I said, that surrounded the nature. That's the core reason why we don't get along. It's got all the paperwork and the documents showing you that he's phony, and that's why he ain't did nothing toward me or Nuke yet with all of them fake claims. He gonna get a lawyer and blah blah blah. We still waiting, because that's where you gonna really meet your end, trying to go to court, you fool. So let's move on to what the next lie that this clown wants to say. There are a few people that have a problem with me controlling the copyright for the information. Anybody that has a problem with me or my business controlling the copyright and trademark is basically meaning to that they have no respect for order reality. How so? The evidence of this is in the fact that they have a problem with a lawful copyright. They acknowledge that there is some kind of copyright by somebody, yet they themselves infringe that copyright while they have been pointing and whining. These people are evidently been pointing and whining. These people are evidently doing what they claim somebody else is doing. Nobody gave them the lawful right to distribute anything. Remember that people cannot express the power or authority that they do not have. This actually, he's speaking in reverse like all these dirty spirits do. He don't have the authority. That's why ain't nothing happened, and that's why he's still being held accountable by nature for falsely copyrighting some work that wasn't his, and it was written for all oppressed peoples, especially for the Ethiopian race. He's not even Ethiopian, African at Nam Point. So he's doing a disservice to his own race and attacking our race at the same time by falsely placing himself within a situation and trying to control how it goes. The same thing York doing right now, and his followers, they too are been manipulating the nature information, while both parties been trying to place the whole blame on me. From the beginning of me not knowing that York wasn't a writer, York didn't take the responsibility to tell people he didn't write the book, because he wanted everybody to think that he was the sole originator or distributor of information. It's the same thing. This guy has no legal rights and nothing. He's just talking a game. It's full of crap. Like we said, take it to court and watch what happens. He ain't gonna do nothing. He's just gonna keep talking. And also, I did a a conversation with Afro Uno's widow called First Contact, where I let it be known to her about the illegal copyrights, and we made certain things known. We've sent it to the certain necessary people, but the one who have control over that is his wife and the living right of Gipu, which they both know what's going on. They expressed to us that we could do what we need to do, so we have their permission to distribute. That's a lie. If you go and listen to the First Contact, we was told to do what we got to do. So that's pretty much, as Ethiopians, we are definitely promoting the information. So we already been given the right to do so. So what he's doing is trying to now use mankind law against nature's law, and the fact that he knows what he did was immoral, and it was very disgusting to sit here and take another person's work like York and the Nawapians and don't give respect to who put in the work for it, and then have the nerve to try to sell it and then tell other people they don't have no rights to push the information. The year is now 2018, and a small number, less than 100, of fringe fanatics and sensationalist Negro Nazis, black nationalists have attempted to synchronize the Noon Science information. Was recently brought to my attention that a book titled The Proof, and it could not have been more aptly titled. Why? Because in that book is the proof that is required to expose a deception that is currently taking place. Before I move forward, I want you to keep in mind that everything stated here is fact and can be proven. I will provide the information required for anyone to do their own research so that they can see and know for themselves. Now pay attention to everything that I state and read it 2 or 3 times if they have to. Again, I don't know who he's talking to about less than 100 fringe fanatics, Negro Nazis, black nationalists. There's no such thing as a Negro Nazi. That's an oxymoron, because a Nazi is anti-black. So how can you have a Negro Nazi? So I don't know if he's talking about the Wapians or he's talking about Noopoohs. Either way, that doesn't fit for either group. But if you listen to this non-African, he says things that are very one-sided and racist toward our race, and he done said more dirty, filthy things toward our race than this. But let's read on and see what this clown has to say. It is said that Dr. York is the writer of a series of books which he is writing while he is in prison at ADX Florence. ADX Florence is a supermax prison facility, the most secure prison in America. You can contact ADX Florence to find out for yourself that Dr. York is under 24-hour surveillance and is not allowed to write books. There's a full record of who has been visiting him, as well as when and why they are visiting. All visits are under surveillance also. The inmates at ADX Florence are allowed 5 visits per month, and the maximum duration of a visit is 7 hours. Any portion of a visit is charged as one visit. Visits are not cumulative. The warden or associate warden has to approve every visit. So to find out who has been visiting Dr. York and when, you can contact ADX Florence. Again, I assert and declare that Dr. York is not allowed to write and publish any books, nor is anyone allowed to do published books for him. If it is true that Dr. York is writing books and somebody else is publishing them for him, the law is being broken. Which law? The same law that has him locked up until he dies. He won't be getting out, I promise. The deception at play is that people are being told that Dr. York is writing books, but the reality is that he is not. This deception and fraud will be exposed. I have made a list of the necessary links to posts stating that Dr. York is still writing books. Most of Washington believe the deception, but the truth will come out because I have reported these claims to the necessary authorities. So some of you might ask why. You can ask me the question yourself. I'm open for communication. Now let's look at some facts. Now before we go any further, I'm going to just show you that, again, this dude does no real research. And he just talking just to be talking. And the Wapians, y'all need to look at that. He even picking at York that he's not going to get out. He done called up there and make sure that this is going on. And again, like I told you, he originally was plagiarizing. York plagiarized books. So you know that's bad when you plagiarize the plagiarizer. So he's sitting here making sure that York is not doing anything because he don't want him disturbing the little bit of bread he making off of y'all. And he didn't tell you the book that he was talking about, the proof. The whole book is called The Proof by Way of Partner Bob. Well, that book is saturated with plagiarism of the introduction to nature. But again, let's see what York has to say concerning if he's writing or has written the actual facts and the Patriarchs.
I knew once the Kakasuga or the Tamahu got clear of what I'm doing, they're going to lock me up.
Right.
I knew it was going to come. But I said when they lock me up, they only going to put me in a room and sit me down with a pencil and a pen, and that's going to slow my old butt up and make me put everything in black and white. So everything that you see coming up on the internet, once you get there and sit down, my wife will say, this is all, he's been writing all this stuff by hand. And that's why that guy, Senator Stephen, used to come to my cell and ask me all kind of questions, but he was just an officer, right? He would act like he was interested to do, and then as soon as he became an SIS, it's his job to shut down the doctrine from going out.
Right.
Not knowing I had already finished all the doctrine, the actual facts, I finished so much stuff. I mean, there's you cannot believe there's boxes of thousands and thousands of sheets.
Right.
Every day I would sit down and write the Arabic, the Hebrew, the cuneiform, the Egyptian, and break down the hieroglyphics and send it home constantly. That's all I did.
Right. But did you ever get to see? Did you ever get to see it, the finished product?
The finished product of what I put out?
Yes.
Yes, that's why he got mad, because he said I would draw a manuscript, right? I would send it home. They would type it up, put the pictures and diary stuff in, like the 18 book and all that kind of stuff, and then send it back to me. Sometimes I would say, well, you made a mistake or so and so, but it's not. It's a translation or the Hebrew or something. Not that important because the doctrine is clear.
Right.
So yes, everything that's out was cycling through me.
Okay.
It would come back to me. I would proofread it and build on it and then send it back out. And I saw that, in case this is part of the thing, I saw at one point where they were getting confused with the Egyptians and the Sumerians.
Right.
I said they get confused. Every time I say that this is a person is equivalent to this person, they go, oh, so you're saying that Amun Ra is so-and-so. And I'm like, no, I said equivalent to. So I said, let me stop and go back and correct and get all the Anunnaki stuff straightened and then come back to the Egyptian stuff.
Right.
And that's what you see.
Okay. Because it
So that clears it up. You can hear from what York is saying that he is putting his stuff in letter form. Nobody's in there writing no books. That's just overdoing it. York is allowed to write letters to family members, and that's where the information is coming from. That and his lawyers that could get that information, just like this phone call. He had a couple of those from his lawyer that shouldn't have been made public, and they put them out anyway, and they start getting in trouble behind that. So some of them, a lot of New York put out the call to take all of his conversations with his lawyer off the internet. So that right there showing you that there's some communication and things. Yeah, there's some laws being broken according to that. He don't supposed to have no connection with his court or his organization, because he was using it for legal purposes. So yeah, that's happening, but it's clear according to him that he sees the books before they come out and all that. So again, that's another lie that's been debunked. This dude does not know what he's talking about, and he trying to play both sides of the fence. He's stealing from the Wapians, who they've been stealing anyway, so with two wrongs don't make a right. But he's stealing from the Wapians and stealing from Afro Unu and the Noopooh, but he can't do nothing with the introduction to the nature information, because one of the signs of liberation is creativity. The Wapians are not creating nothing, they stealing, so that don't count. And what he doing is plagiarizing and stealing. He can't create nothing either. So therefore, both teams are waiting on us to make moves, and then they trying to go around behind that and fandangle something, which we proved with Prince York when he was at Jabari's house, and we did that video exposing how they they stole from Anoop's research when he was able to prove that the word Noopooh came from the hieroglyph Nebu for gold and sunshine and all of that. So we're going to move forward so we can wrap this on up. Now, let's look at some facts. Before 2010, nobody was calling themselves a Noopooh. Nobody was talking about Noon Science. Nobody was using Noopooh in their name. Nobody was talking about Noopooh and Zoopooh. There were no Noon Science groups. There were no PDFs of the Noon Science books. Noon Science was not part of various discussions online. The Nuwaubians were not claiming Noon or Noopooh. There were no Nuwaubian books with Noon Science information. Alright, so let's try to deal with this one at a time. Okay, first lie he said was nobody was calling themselves Noopooh. First of all, a Noopooh was just somebody that accepts sound, right, reason, and nature information. It means cloud nine, so that's what a Noopooh is. And also, he can't account for the people we don't know, even ourselves. So you can't say that's not the case, because if Afro Unu received information first, him and Gipu and Sipu, they will be the first Noopoohs. So they will be calling themselves that, whether we know about it or not. But common sense will tell you that anybody who those books have reached since the 90s, where you find the word Noopooh in it, and that took on to the information would be considered Noopooh. So that doesn't fly. Alright, he said nobody was talking about Noon Science. That's another lie. You can see me talk about Noon Science right there on the screen at Sarnetta's house. He said nobody was talking about Noopooh and Zoopooh. That's also a lie, because I showed the diagram I had Lord Albert draw for me in this particular video, where you can see me showing the drawing of 7, 8, and 9 ether. Then I point to the bottom. I just got the volume turned down on it, but it talks about Zoopooh in the bottom half. Anybody who got enough sense can find that out. It said no PDFs of Noon Science books was out. That is true. There's no PDFs, again, that we know. We only know what Brahim did. We cannot throw away what we don't know. Like the nature said, the law of possibility. So we're going to keep on moving with that. Then he said Noon was not part of various discussions online. That's a lie. Once again, I told you had Ning sites. Alright. You had All Eyes on Egypt. You had Chat with the Gods. It was a variation of sites that Nuwaubians were running that Noon was a part of those groups even before I got there. So that's not true. See, he wasn't around. He said Nuwaubians were not claiming Noon or Noopooh. Again, that's incorrect, because I consider myself a Nuwaubian up to 2010, and in this video, this is 2009. And what I was saying was that I understood what Nuwaubians were still going through, they transition, whatever. So I consider myself not in that line of path that they were on. But for all intents and purposes, I was a Nuwaubian who had become a Noopooh, and I was just trying to connect books that were coming out from the Nuwaubians at that time. So that's not true. Then he said there were no Nuwaubian books with Noon Science information in them. So I'm finna prove that wrong right now. Here is a list of books that I wrote from 2008 to 2012, and again, I consider myself a Nuwaubian all the way up to 2010. So the fact that I wrote books from 08 to 2012 prove that he is a liar. And those who've been around can look at these books right here, and y'all should remember some of these. And also, he said that nobody was wearing the name Noopooh in their name. Again, that is a lie. I was wearing the word Noopooh, the surname Noopooh in my name in 2009. Lord Abba also wore the name 7M Noopooh in 2009. And also there was another Noopooh known as 9M Noopooh. I think that's Kepra. also in the year 2009, which I'm going to show the evidence here. So again, his credibility is zero zilch. You can't listen to these fools. They sitting here lying right in front of you, just like the nature said, the perfection of negativity. This person is a non-African lying to you about African business. Get out of our affairs. Then I'd be so glad when nature removes him and all the other ones that's in our way. After 2010, people started calling themselves a Noopooh. Not true. People started talking about noon science. Not true. People started using Noopooh in their name. Not true. People started talking about Noopooh and Zoopooh. Not true. There are a few so-called noon science groups. Not true. The noon science books were available in PDF format. Not true, because the books were still being sold from overseas by Galaxy 9. He may have been the one that we've seen with the PDF format, but he's not the reason that the book started flowing. They still were flowing, and they had stopped by the time he came in. Noon science became a part of various discussions online. Not true. Happened before. There are several Noopooh books with excerpts from the Noon Science PDF. No, there are excerpts from the Noon Science books that became a PDF. Stop trying to make you the source, because you're not. We all know that after does not mean before. You need to listen to that. It was only after 2010 that the Noopooh started to syncretize Noon Science into their doctrine. That's not true. They're in the actual facts as well. Via deceptive means saying that York wrote it before 2010. He did, because York was stealing and plagiarizing all the way in the 90s when he started taking the Right Knowledge series books, which really was nothing but the Bible interpretation and explanation of certain portions of the Nine Ball books that he had been putting in his books. So therefore, you are incorrect on all counts, Mr. Non-African. York was including noon science in his writing as being done, not in 2018 after 2010. Not true. There are some things in the proof in the Noopooh book that are verbatim copied from the noon science information that was not part of anything York wrote before 2010. This is a clear plagiarism and deception which will be exposed. We have already done that, sir. You're too late. The point of this message, not to make a fool of myself or to BS people. You have done that and you are being exposed. The purpose of this message is to inform you people of the facts and to let anyone know that I can be contacted with regard to validity and proof of the claims that I have set forth here. No, you do not. It's time for people to know what's real and what's not. It's also time for the games to be over. James West, game over. No, game over for you. The Noopooh setting a claim to something that they know it can be proven is not theirs. Game over. It's war. War, it's time to show you people what you are not. Please. We already been saying that. Again, you still in our term, true mental cosmic peace and wartime. You being exposed. And that'll be it. And I'm going to leave y'all with my theme song for this non-African and all those fools. Charles, Malachi, Disciple, Fatima, all y'all fools who done stepped up. Kinsu, all of y'all. The Noopooh assassin. The whole kit and caboodle. This song is for you.